Okay, so as Slim mentioned, I'll be looking at FedEx intermediate outlook and a overall bearish bias. So I'll get into that in just a second, but I wanted to show here where we typically get started in terms of looking for ideas when it comes to this segment that we do. So I go into the charts hub to start, and the charts hub is available in level 2 and higher, and you have really easy access to our weekly and daily analysis for the complete focus list of symbols that the askSlim team covers. And that is some of the most liquid, best patterned stocks, ETFs, and then futures markets. So you can see all those here on the left-hand side as I go down all the way through that list. It's an awesome list. Really don't need any other ones, but obviously there are plenty of other symbols out there. But how do you use this? You simply click on one of the symbols on the left, and it defaults to our weekly chart. Click on the weekly chart image, and you can see the work that we do in a static form. And then you can jump back and you can go to the daily chart, do the same thing. So that's what I do. Walk myself through the various symbols, and then I stopped on FedEx and said, okay, this looks like we have a clear bearish bias in that intermediate term. So let's talk about why that is. And I also want to, pull up this little checklist here regarding the core trade planning questions. So we, as Slim mentioned, Katie and RV, what do we start with is our outlook period. Very critical to understand what your outlook period is, because that's where you'll be doing your work, setting up your levels, your reevaluations, and looking for then signals to suggest that the trade is a go. Okay, so in FedEx here, why a bearish overall directional bias? Well, if I start in the weekly, we can see that essentially we got into our peaking phase, and then we had a very large engulfing candle here that formed. And then the week later, our reversal scout turned over, signaling a warning that that peak is in place. If the peak is in place, then as we get further out into the cycle, odds continue to diminish the likelihood of a new peak to form. So therefore, we start to look for key resistance areas and also breakdown areas. So I'm going to come back to this weekly chart here in just a moment. And I'm going to talk about what do I see on the daily chart, because this is really where you can zoom in and you get additional market messages signaling the bearish condition for FedEx. And most importantly, it would be that breakdown below this prior cycle low. So anytime we see that breakdown, it serves as a confirmation. Obviously, there's no certainties, but it strongly increases the odds that there is a high in place. And because of the timing, it also increased the odds that that intermediate cycle peak was in place. So now we also have negative momentum on the daily with the reversal scout negative, the slim ribbon negative. So now the reason we're looking more at a intermediate, let's say 3 to 6 week outlook, is the fact that we are in the cycle timing window, which suggests that FedEx should be putting in a low, and it likely already has. And if it breaks down very quickly, then that would suggest that we've already probably seen a left-hand translation, which is a negative occurrence. It simply means that we look for where the peak occurs. And if it occurs to the left-hand side, then that means there's a lot of time to go. If it occurs to the right-hand side, then that means that you're looking for a shallow pullback due to the diminished amount of time left. So in this case here, we have bearish momentum. We had a breakdown in the prior cycle, or we've already had that breakdown here as we came into the new cycle low timing window. So, and we're into the resistance areas of the slim ribbon. So in terms of short-term breakdown, if we saw a break below this 246.15, that would open up the door more quickly to this projection zone on the daily chart here. If not, if we can get through this slim ribbon here, turn the reversal scalp positive, then it would be more of a typical scenario where FedEx would push up near these short-term resistance zones. And as Katie mentioned, then we would look for it to roll over as you get out into that peaking phase where it should fail, and then we would then make its move still probably into this projection zone. So I'm going to, and the revaluation level that we're looking at here is a daily close above 270, which would render this analysis needing to be revisited and likely suggesting that something else is changing more bullishly in FedEx. So again, if we break that 246.15, we could see a swifter move to the downside into this daily projection zone, either here as we get into this early peaking phase, or even as we get further out into that cycle. Coming back to the weekly, I have two projections drawn here. One of those is around that cycle low timing with the daily, looking for to get close to that intermediate 78.6. And then if it is really weak, then we are likely to see it get close to that prior cycle low around that 230 level as we get out into that March-April timeframe. All right, that's my review of FDX.
All right, great. Go back to that daily chart for a second.
Sure.
The reason I want you to do that is because I have a video in our video library. Now, we have just redone the evergreen, the way you can see the table of contents on the videos that are evergreen for levels 2, 3, and 4. And in there, you will find under the tools for text some videos, one specifically on gap trading. There's one on types of gaps. And what I say in there that I think is really important, and I want you to go watch those videos, is that when gaps occur with high volume, or usually around events on stocks, ETFs that occur, stock market, but usually it's on the equities that it occurs, that usually starts something. And in this case, you can see very clearly it started a decline, and it was enormous. And the expectation would be that it would continue on the downside, that rallies would fail. And I think, Matt, you did a great job exhibiting that right here and how it really matches up with the cycle analysis also. So that break in FDX started something. And you can sometimes it starts something on the upside, sometimes it does so on the downside. Sometimes it's a breakaway gap. Sometimes it's a gap reverse. I talk about all of those things in those videos. And I know so many people that are members of askSlim don't even realize how many things are in those video libraries. So I really encourage you to go in there. We have, I don't know, 600 or 700 videos in there, but the evergreen ones, the ones you really can learn from over and over again, there's probably 250 and more in that.